The Galactic Stage. In the vast expanse of the Andromeda Galaxy, the Zorgan Empire reigned supreme. For eons, they had conquered and subjugated countless worlds, their advanced technology and ruthless tactics making them an unstoppable force. Captain Kresnik, a battle-hardened veteran, commanded the Zorgan exploration fleet as it ventured into uncharted space, seeking new worlds to bring under the Empire's control. As the fleet emerged from hyperspace, their sensors detected an anomaly, a solitary ship drifting through the void. Kresnik's eyes narrowed as he examined the readouts. The vessel was small, barely a blip on their screens, and its design was unlike anything the Zorgans had encountered before. "Hail them," Kresnik ordered, his voice rasping through the bridge. "Let us see what manner of creature dares to cross our path." The communications officer nodded, sending out a standard greeting in the Zorgan tongue. Moments later, a response crackled through the speakers, and an image flickered to life on the view screen. Kresnik's eyes widened in surprise. The being on the screen was soft and fleshy, with pale skin and curious, intelligent eyes. It spoke in a language the Zorgans had never heard before, but the universal translator quickly adapted. "Greetings," the creature said, its voice calm and even. "I am Captain Natalie Chen of the Terran Federation ship Dauntless. We come in peace, seeking to explore and learn." Kresnik scoffed at the notion. In the Zorgan Empire, there was no peace, only conquest and submission. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with menace. "Captain Chen," he growled, "you have entered Zorgan space. You will surrender your vessel and submit to the will of the Empire, or face destruction." To his surprise, Captain Chen merely smiled, a glint of amusement in her eyes. "Captain Kresnik," she replied, "I believe you have misunderstood our purpose here. We have no intention of surrendering, nor do we seek conflict." Kresnik's rage boiled over at the human's insolence. "Then you have sealed your fate," he snarled. "Prepare to be boarded and enslaved, like all who defy the Zorgan Empire." But as he spoke, the human ship began to change. Panels shifted and retracted, revealing an array of weapons and advanced technology that belied its humble appearance. The Dauntless was no mere science vessel. It was a warship, disguised and ready for battle. Captain Chen's smile never wavered as she spoke again, her voice now edged with steel. "I suggest you reconsider your actions, Captain Kresnik. We are not as defenseless as we appear." With those words, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, as the Zorgans faced a species unlike any they had encountered before. The humans, it seemed, were full of surprises, and Kresnik suddenly realized that this encounter would not unfold as he had planned. Hostile negotiations. As the tense standoff continued, Kresnik couldn't help but feel a twinge of admiration for these audacious humans. They were outnumbered and outgunned, yet they showed no fear in the face of the Zorgan fleet. It was a brazenness he had rarely seen in all his years of conquest. But admiration aside, Kresnik knew his duty. The Zorgan Empire did not tolerate defiance, and these humans would learn the price of their insolence. He turned to his weapons officer, ready to give the order to fire, when Captain Chen's voice cut through the silence once more. "Before you make a decision you may regret, Captain Kresnik, I suggest you consider the potential benefits of a peaceful interaction. We have much to offer each other, if you are willing to listen." Kresnik paused, caught off guard by the offer. The Zorgan way was to conquer and control, not to negotiate or cooperate. And yet, as he looked at the sleek, advanced Terran ship, he couldn't deny the allure of their technology. Perhaps there was something to be gained from a different approach. With a growl of frustration, Kresnik turned back to the view screen. "Very well, Captain Chen. I will hear what you have to say. But know this, the Zorgan Empire does not bow to the whims of lesser species. You will have to prove your worth if you wish to avoid subjugation." Captain Chen nodded, her expression serious but hopeful. "I assure you, Captain Kresnik, we have much to prove and even more to offer. Let us begin a dialogue and see where it leads." And so, As the Zorgan fleet and the TSS Dauntless hung in the void, an unexpected encounter began to unfold, one that would challenge the very foundations of the Zorgan Empire and reveal the true potential of the human spirit. The stage was set for a clash of civilizations and a test of wills that would echo through the stars. Kresnik's mind raced as he considered his next move. The humans had proven themselves to be more than mere prey. They were a potential rival, a force to be reckoned with. He could not afford to underestimate them again. With a grudging nod, he gestured for Captain Chen to continue. "Speak, then, human. What is it that you propose?" Chen leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with intensity. "An alliance, Captain Kresnik. A partnership between our peoples, built on mutual respect and shared knowledge. We have much to learn from one another, and together, we could achieve greatness beyond imagining." Kresnik's eyes narrowed. "And what makes you think the Zorgan Empire would ever consent to such an arrangement? We have built our power on the backs of the conquered, not through cooperation with lesser races." Captain Chen's smile returned, but this time it held a hint of challenge. "Because, Captain Kresnik, you have seen what we are capable of. You know that we are not a lesser race, but a potential equal. And in a galaxy full of dangers and opportunities, even the mighty Zorgan Empire could benefit from a strong ally." Kresnik fell silent, weighing the human's words. Much as it galled him to admit it, she had a point. The Zorgans had grown complacent in their supremacy, and the encounter with the humans had shaken that certainty to its core. Perhaps it was time to consider a new path, a new way of ensuring the Empire's dominance. But even as the thought crossed his mind, Kresnik knew that such a decision would not be his alone to make. The Zorgan High Council would have to be convinced, and they were not known for their flexibility or open-mindedness. With a heavy sigh, he turned back to Captain Chen. "I will consider your proposal, human, but do not mistake my willingness to listen for acceptance. The Zorgan Empire will do what is best for its own interests, and no one else's." Chen inclined her head, a gesture of respect and understanding. "Of course, Captain Kresnik, we expect nothing less. But I believe that, in time, you will come to see the wisdom in our offer. The future of both our peoples may depend on it." As the communication ended and the view screen went dark, Kresnik leaned back in his chair, his thoughts churning. The humans had presented him with a challenge and an opportunity, one that could either lead to a new era of prosperity for the Zorgan Empire or to its ultimate downfall. The choice, he knew, would not be an easy one. But as he gazed out at the stars, Kresnik couldn't shake the feeling that the fate of the galaxy had just taken a new and unexpected turn, and that the humans would be at the center of it all. The opening salvo. As the negotiations between Captain Chen and Kresnik unfolded, the Zorgan captain couldn't shake the feeling that he was being played. These humans, with their soft bodies and strange language, seemed too confident, too assured of their position. It was as if they knew something he didn't, and the thought unnerved him. Kresnik's suspicions were soon confirmed when, without warning, the TSS Dauntless sprang into action. In a blinding flash of light, the human ship unleashed a barrage of electromagnetic pulse weapons, targeting the Zorgan fleet's vulnerable systems. The Zorgan ships, caught off guard by the sudden attack, found themselves crippled and adrift, their power systems overloaded and their weapons offline. On the bridge of his flagship, Kresnik roared in fury as alarms blared and consoles sparked around him. "What treachery is this?" he bellowed, slamming his fist against the arm of his command chair. "The humans will pay for their deceit." But even as he spoke, Kresnik couldn't help but marvel at the effectiveness of the human weapons. In a matter of moments, they had neutralized a fleet that had conquered worlds, and they had done so with a technology the Zorgans had never seen before. As the Zorgan crews scrambled to restore power and bring their ships back under control, Captain Chen's face appeared once more on the view screen. Gone was the friendly diplomacy of their earlier exchange, replaced by a steely determination that sent a chill down Kresnik's spine. "Captain Kresnik," Chen said, her voice cold and unyielding, I tried to reason with you, to find a peaceful solution to our differences. But you and your kind only understand one language, the language of force. So be it." Kresnik snarled in defiance, even as he felt a grudging respect for the human captain's resolve. "You think you have won, human. You have only sealed your own doom. The Zorgan Empire will not rest until we have crushed you and your pathetic species beneath our heel." But Captain Chen merely smiled, a smile that held no warmth or mercy. "You underestimate us, Captain Kresnik. We are not some primitive race, cowering in fear of your might. We are humanity, and we have faced challenges far greater than the likes of you." With those words, the TS Dauntless began to move, its sleek form cutting through the void with a grace and speed that belied its size. As Kresnik watched, helpless and seething, the human ship positioned itself between the Zorgan fleet and their homeworld. A silent challenge, and a declaration of intent. "We will not be intimidated," Captain Chen declared, her voice ringing out across the stars. "We will not be conquered, and we will not back down. The Zorgan Empire has met its match, and the galaxy will tremble at the fury of humanity unleashed." And with that, the battle was joined, as the TSS Dauntless and the crippled Zorgan fleet clashed in a desperate struggle for survival and dominance. Kresnik, his pride and his empire on the line, could only watch in stunned disbelief as the humans proved, beyond any doubt, that they were a force to be reckoned with. In the chaos of the battle, Kresnik found himself grudgingly admiring the humans' tactics and technology. Their ship moved with a fluidity and precision that the Zorgans could only dream of, darting in and out of range, striking at weak points with surgical accuracy. And their weapons, those damnable EMP devices, continued to wreak havoc on the Zorgan systems, leaving them floundering and exposed. But the Zorgans were not so easily defeated. Driven by desperation and a fierce desire to protect their homeworld, they'd fought back with everything they had, their own weapons carving glowing scars across the void. The TS Dauntless, for all its advanced technology, was not invulnerable, and soon bore the marks of the Zorgans' furious counterattack. As the battle raged on, Kresnik found himself locked in a personal duel with Captain Chen, their wills clashing across the vastness of space. He grudgingly respected her cunning and her resolve, even as he sought to break her and her ship. But the human captain was a formidable opponent, meeting every challenge with a determination and resourcefulness that left Kresnik both frustrated and begrudgingly impressed. In the end, it was the Zorgans who blinked first, battered, bleeding, and faced with the prospect of total annihilation. Kresnik made the difficult decision to call for a retreat. It galled him to admit defeat, especially to a species he had so recently dismissed as inferior, but he knew that to continue the fight would be to court disaster. As the remnants of the Zorgan fleet limped away, their pride shattered and their future uncertain, Kresnik couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The humans had proven themselves a formidable adversary, and he knew that the Zorgan Empire would not rest until they had found a way to overcome this new threat. But for now, as the TSS Dauntless stood victorious among the stars, Kresnik could only reflect on the harsh lessons he had learned. The galaxy, it seemed, was a far more complex and dangerous place than he had ever imagined, and the Zorgans would need to adapt if they hoped to survive in this brave new era. With a heavy heart and a newfound respect for his enemy, Kresnik began the long journey back to Zorgan space, his thoughts consumed by the challenges that lay ahead. The war had only just begun, and the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. Daring maneuvers. In the aftermath of their humiliating defeat, the Zorgan fleet limped through space, desperately trying to put distance between themselves and the triumphant humans. On the bridge of his battered flagship, Captain Kresnik paced like a caged animal, his mind racing with the implications of what had just transpired. The humans, those soft, fleshy creatures he had so easily dismissed, had proven themselves to be far more than mere upstarts. Their technology, Their tactics and their sheer audacity had caught the Zorgans completely off guard, and the price of that underestimation had been high. But even as he grappled with the shame of defeat, Kresnik knew that he could not afford to wallow in self-pity. The Zorgan Empire was not just his responsibility, but his life's work, and he would be damned if he let it crumble at the hands of these upstart humans. With a growl of determination, Kresnik turned to his crew. "Begin repairs immediately," he barked, "and send word to the High Council. We must warn them of this new threat and prepare for the battles to come." As the crew scrambled to carry out his orders, Kresnik turned his attention back to the star-studded void beyond the viewscreen. Somewhere out there, he knew, the TSS Dauntless was waiting, its human crew no doubt reveling in their victory. But Kresnik was not about to let them savor that triumph for long. He may have underestimated the humans once, but he would not make that mistake again. The next time they met, he vowed, the Zorgans would be ready, and the humans would learn the true meaning of fear. Aboard the TSS Dauntless, Captain Chen and her crew were still coming to terms with the magnitude of their achievement. In a matter of hours, they had not only survived an encounter with the most feared military force in the galaxy, but had emerged victorious, a feat that would have been unthinkable mere days before. But Chen knew that their work was far from over. The Zorgans may have been beaten back for now, but they were far from defeated. And with the knowledge of humanity's existence now spreading like wildfire through the galaxy, other threats were sure to emerge. "We need to keep moving," Chen said, her voice steady with resolve. "The Zorgans will be back, and they won't be alone. We need to gather intelligence, form alliances, and prepare for the struggles ahead." Her crew, still riding high on the adrenaline of their victory, nodded in agreement. They knew that they were no longer just explorers and scientists, but soldiers in a war that would determine the fate of their entire species. As the Dauntless prepared to set out into the unknown once more, Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and purpose swelling within her. The road ahead would be long and perilous, but she knew that humanity would face it head-on, with the same courage and determination that had carried them to victory against the Zorgans. And so, with a final glance back at the scene of their triumph, Captain Chen gave the order to engage the engines, and the TSS Dauntless leaped forward into the endless reaches of space, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Little did they know that their actions had already set in motion a chain of events that would reshape the galaxy forever. News of the humans' victory over the Zorgans spread like wildfire, sparking hope and fear in equal measure among the galaxy's many civilizations. Some saw humanity as a beacon of hope, a rising power that could stand against the tyranny of the Zorgans and their ilk. Others, however, viewed them with suspicion and dread, fearing that the humans' rapid ascent would upset the delicate balance of power that had held sway for so long. For Kresnik and the Zorgan Empire, the implications of the humans' emergence were nothing short of existential. The High Council was in an uproar, with factions scrambling to assign blame and seize control in the wake of the fleet's humiliating defeat. But Kresnik knew that the real threat lay not in the council chambers, but in the stars themselves. The humans had proven themselves to be a formidable adversary, and he knew that the Zorgans would need to adapt quickly if they hoped to survive in this new era. And so, even as the political machinations swirled around him, Kresnik began to lay his plans. He would study the humans, learn their weaknesses and their strengths, and find a way to turn the tables on them once and for all. It would not be easy, he knew. The humans had already proven themselves to be cunning and resourceful, and their technology was unlike anything the Zorgans had ever encountered. But Kresnik was a warrior to his core, and he would not rest until he had avenged his defeat and secured the future of his empire. As the TSS Dauntless and the Zorgan fleet each charted their own course through the stars, the stage was set for a conflict that would shape the destiny of the galaxy for generations to come. The daring maneuvers of the present would give way to the epic battles of the future, as humanity and the Zorgans each sought to claim their place in the cosmic order. And through it all, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The final push. As the Zorgan fleet regrouped and licked their wounds, Captain Kresnik found himself consumed by a burning desire for revenge. The humiliation of their defeat at the hands of the humans gnawed at him, a constant reminder of his own failings as a leader. But even as he plotted and schemed, Kresnik knew that he could not afford to underestimate his enemy again. The humans had proven themselves to be far more than mere upstarts. They were a force to be reckoned with, a rival power that could threaten the very foundations of the Zorgan Empire. And so, with a heavy heart and a grim determination, Kresnik set about the task of rebuilding his fleet and preparing for the final confrontation that he knew was coming. He rallied his troops, calling upon their loyalty and their thirst for glory, and slowly but surely, the Zorgans began to regain their strength. Meanwhile, aboard the TSS Dauntless, Captain Chen and her crew were facing challenges of their own. The news of their victory over the Zorgans had spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy, and now, everywhere they went, they were greeted with a mixture of awe and fear. Some civilizations welcomed them as heroes, seeing in humanity a potential ally against the tyranny of the Zorgans. Others, however, viewed them with suspicion and mistrust, fearing that the humans' rapid rise to power would upset the delicate balance that had held sway for so long. Navigating this complex web of alliances and rivalries was no easy task, but Chen and her crew were determined to press on. They knew that the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and they would not rest until they had secured a place for their species among the stars. As the weeks turned into months, the TSS Dauntless and the Zorgan fleet continued to dance around each other, each searching for a weakness in the other's defenses. Skirmishes broke out on the fringes of their respective territories, as each side tested the other's resolve and capabilities. But both Kresnik and Chen knew that these were mere preludes to the final battle that was to come. And so, with a sense of grim inevitability, they began to make their preparations. For the Zorgans, this meant marshaling every ship and soldier they could muster, knowing that they would need every ounce of their strength to overcome the humans' technological advantage. For the crew of the Dauntless, it meant pushing their ship and themselves to the very limits of their endurance, honing their skills and strategies to a razor's edge. And then, at last, the day of reckoning arrived. In a distant corner of the galaxy, far from the prying eyes of civilization, the TSS Dauntless and the Zorgan fleet met in battle once more. It was a titanic struggle, a clash of wills and weapons that lit up the void like a second sun. The Zorgans fought with all the fury and desperation of a cornered beast, while the humans countered with the cool precision and unwavering determination that had become their hallmark. Back and forth the tide of battle swung, as each side sought to gain the upper hand. Ships exploded into clouds of debris, while others limped away, trailing smoke and sparks. And at the heart of it all, Captain Chen and Captain Kresnik faced off in a duel that would determine the fate of their respective civilizations. In the end, it was the humans who emerged victorious, their superior technology and tactics proving decisive against the Zorgans' brute force. Kresnik's flagship, battered and broken, lay dead in space, its crew either dead or captured. But even as the crew of the Dauntless celebrated their hard-won victory, Captain Chen knew that their work was far from over. The Zorgan Empire may have been defeated, but there were still many challenges and threats that lay ahead. And so, with a heavy heart but an unshakable resolve, Chen ordered her crew to set a course for home, knowing that the future of humanity would be forged in the battles and alliances that were still to come. As the TSS Dauntless disappeared into the depths of space, the galaxy held its breath, wondering what the future would hold. For better or for worse, a new age had dawned, an age in which the fate of civilizations would be decided not by the whims of ancient empires, but by the courage and ingenuity of a rising power called humanity. An uneasy truce. In the aftermath of the climactic battle, an eerie stillness settled over the galaxy. The once mighty Zorgan fleet, now reduced to a shadow of its former self, limped back to its home territory to lick its wounds and ponder the implications of its crushing defeat. Captain Kresnik, His pride and his body, battered in equal measure, found himself consumed by a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. Anger, shame, and a thirst for revenge warred within him, tempered only by a grudging respect for the humans who had so thoroughly outmatched him. As he sat in his command chair, surveying the damage to his ship and crew, Kresnik knew that the old ways of the Zorgan Empire would no longer suffice. The humans had proven themselves to be more than mere upstarts. They were a force to be reckoned with, a power that could not be conquered through brute strength alone. And so, with a heavy heart and a mind still reeling from the shock of defeat, Kresnik made a decision that would have been unthinkable mere weeks before. He opened a channel to the TSS Dauntless, the ship that had been his nemesis, and now, perhaps, his only hope for survival. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Captain Chen and her crew watched with a mixture of surprise and suspicion as Kresnik's haggard face appeared on their view screen. They had expected threats, demands, perhaps even a plea for mercy. But what they got was something else entirely. "Captain Chen," Kresnik said, his voice rough with exhaustion and emotion, "I come to you now, not as a conqueror, but as a supplicant. The Zorgan Empire has been humbled by your strength and ingenuity, and we can no longer deny the truth of our situation." Chen leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she tried to gauge the sincerity of Kresnik's words. "And what truth is that, Captain Kresnik?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. Kresnik hesitated for a moment, as if steeling himself for what he was about to say. "The truth is that we need your help," he said at last, the words seeming to pain him even as he spoke them. "The Zorgan Empire is strong, but it is not invincible. We have made enemies on 100 worlds, and now, with our fleet in disarray, we are vulnerable as never before." Chen's mind raced as she considered the implications of Kresnik's words. The Zorgans, seeking aid from the very species they had sought to conquer. It was almost too much to believe. And yet, as she looked into Kresnik's eyes, she saw something there that gave her pause. It was not fear, nor was it desperation. Rather, it was a kind of weary resignation, the look of a warrior who had finally come to terms with the limits of his own strength. "What exactly are you proposing, Captain Kresnik?" Chen asked, her voice still guarded but not entirely unsympathetic. Kresnik took a deep breath, as if bracing himself for the plunge. "An alliance," he said, the words seeming to hang in the air between them. "A truce between our peoples, a sharing of knowledge and resources that will allow us both to weather the storms that are sure to come." Chen was silent for a long moment, her mind whirling with the possibilities and pitfalls of such an arrangement. On the one hand, the Zorgans had proven themselves to be a formidable and untrustworthy adversary, one that had nearly brought humanity to the brink of extinction. But on the other hand, the galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, filled with threats and challenges that no one species could hope to face alone. An alliance with the Zorgans, however uneasy, could provide a measure of security and stability in an uncertain universe. And so, with a sense of both trepidation and resolve, Captain Chen made a decision that would shape the course of galactic history for generations to come. "Very well, Captain Kresnik," she said at last, her voice steady with determination. "We accept your proposal, but on our terms. The Zorgan Empire will stand down its remaining forces and submit to the oversight of a joint governing council, one that will ensure the fair and equitable treatment of all species under its jurisdiction." Kresnik's face twisted with a mixture of relief and reluctance, but he knew he had no choice but to agree. The alternative, a slow, ignominious decline into irrelevance and extinction, was too terrible to contemplate. And so, with a solemn nod and a few terse words of agreement, the deal was struck. The Zorgan Empire and the Human Federation would stand together, united in the face of whatever challenges the galaxy might bring. As the TSS Dauntless and the remains of the Zorgan fleet began the long, slow process of rebuilding and cooperation, Captain Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of unease mingled with hope. The road ahead would be long and fraught with peril, she knew. Trust between the two species would not come easily, and there would be many on both sides who would resist the idea of an alliance with their former enemies. But as she looked out at the stars, seeing in them the infinite possibilities of a galaxy remade, Chen knew that this was a chance they could not afford to pass up. The future of humanity, and of all the species that called the galaxy home, would be forged in the crucible of cooperation and understanding, not in the fires of war and conquest. And so, with a final salute to the brave men and women who had fought and died to make this moment possible, Captain Chen turned her gaze to the horizon, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring. For better or for worse, a new era had dawned, an era in which the fate of the galaxy would be decided not by the whims of ancient empires, but by the collective will of all those who called it home. The road ahead. As the dust settled, and the new alliance between the Zorgan Empire and the Human Federation took shape, the galaxy held its breath, wondering what the future would bring. For Captain Chen and the crew of the TSS Dauntless, the road ahead was filled with both promise and uncertainty. The task of integrating the Zorgan fleet into the Federation's military structure was a daunting one, fraught with logistical and cultural challenges. Trust between the two species was still a fragile thing, and there were many on both sides who viewed the alliance with suspicion and unease. But Chen and her crew were determined to make it work. They worked tirelessly to build bridges between the two cultures, organizing joint training exercises and diplomatic missions that brought Zorgan and human soldiers and diplomats together in a spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding. Slowly but surely, the walls of mistrust and prejudice began to crumble. Zorgan warriors who had once viewed humans as weak and inferior found themselves impressed by their bravery and resourcefulness, while human soldiers learned to appreciate the Zorgan's fierce loyalty and unwavering determination. As the weeks turned into months, the alliance began to bear fruit. Joint military operations against common threats became more frequent and more effective, while trade and cultural exchange flourished between Zorgan and human worlds. For Captain Kresnik, the transition was a difficult one. He had spent his entire life in service to the Zorgan Empire, and the idea of sharing power with another species was still a bitter pill to swallow. But even he could not deny the benefits of the alliance. With human technology and resources at their disposal, the Zorgans were able to rebuild their shattered fleet and expand their reach to new corners of the galaxy. And with the threat of human retaliation looming over them, even the most recalcitrant Zorgan warlords were forced to toe the line and accept the new order. As for Captain Chen, she found herself increasingly in demand as a mediator and diplomat, called upon to broker deals and settle disputes between the various factions and species that made up the new galactic order. It was a role that suited her well, and she threw herself into it with the same passion and determination that she had brought to her military career. She knew that the future of the galaxy depended on the success of the alliance, and she was determined to do everything in her power to make it work. But even as the alliance grew stronger and more stable, Shen knew that the challenges ahead would only become more daunting. There were still many in the galaxy who viewed the Zorgan-human partnership with fear and mistrust, and there were whispers of new threats emerging from the depths of unexplored space. And so, as the TSS Dauntless charted a course into the unknown, Captain Chen and her crew steeled themselves for the battles to come. They knew that the road ahead would be long and perilous, but they also knew that they had the strength and the determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For they were the vanguard of a new era, the pioneers of a galaxy remade in the image of cooperation and understanding. And though the future was still uncertain, one thing was clear: the destiny of the galaxy would be shaped by the choices and actions of those who dared to dream of a better tomorrow. As the stars beckoned and the engines of the Dauntless roared to life, Captain Chen looked out at the vast expanse of space before her, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. Whatever the future might bring, she knew that she and her crew would face it head-on, united in their determination to build a better, brighter galaxy for all. And so, with a final nod to her bridge crew and a deep breath of anticipation, Captain Natalie Chen gave the order to engage the warp drive, and the TSS Dauntless leaped forward into the unknown, ready to face the challenges and opportunities of a brave new era. The end.